Hello everybody, my name is RagingRaptor and I welcome you to a new World of Tanks preview video, and today we'll have a look at the new EBR 105 and my first impression of said vehicle. I was now playing on the tester for quite a little bit, and I've played some rounds in this neat little vehicle. And we are going to look afterwards at a short little gameplay, which is around 5 minutes long, showing you a little bit the strengths and the weaknesses of this vehicle. But there are, first of all, two minor things which I have to say. There are some things which are not that nice. For example, you have two driving modes, one being for super duper mobility going up to 105 kilometers per hour, and the second one being for better traverse speed or traverse angles on your wheels. And one is called cruise mode, one is called rapid mode. Rapid mode being the fast one, cruise mode being the slow one. So cruise mode at the moment feels incredibly useless because the tank starts to jiggle around like a maniac, and it's really hard to control this vehicle, and you need quite some time to get used to that. It's impressive how jiggly this tank in cruise mode is. In rapid mode, it's not that big of a deal, but you have to watch out that you are not jumping over a little hill when you are not really prepared for it or in a steering motion, because otherwise you are going to land sideways, get either damage or come to a complete halt because your tracks basically, or excuse me, your wheels basically are going to absorb everything. Next up, you can see that this vehicle has pretty low fuel range. I'm playing with a tank gun rammer with vertical stabilizer and optics, even though I think the vertical stabilizer is not really worth it. I rather should go for vents to get 428 meters of fuel range. My crew has 6th sense. You can see it used to be my IMX 3105 crew. It has a good crew commander with the fuel range skill, and we have our radio operator with the fuel range skill. And apparently this guy is not even secondary driver, because that would make sense, because this tank can go forwards and backwards. So at the moment we are sitting at 425 meters of fuel range, which is definitely nothing to be traveled with. Then we have, when we take a little bit of spicy coffee, we are getting to 445 meters of fuel range. If we decide to go for some improved stuff, we should go even higher, but I do not really want to do that because, let's be honest, most of you guys probably won't invest in getting coded optics or the improved coded optics, which is called experimental optics or something like that. I know it's tempting to go full on to get everything possible, but in the end I want to test the vehicle how I will play it, and this is how I would play it. Other than that, this tank has pretty bad penetration values. 190 with standard APCR and 240 with premium shells is pretty low compared to any other tank in the tree. This is the tier 9 gun, this is the tier 10 gun, then we have the tier 9 here, and this is the tier 8 gun, and you can see the penetration values are so abysmal, they're not even changing that much compared to the different tiers and vehicles, and it just kind of feels sad, like, man, it feels freaking useless. The accuracies could be better, but they're not too bad. You have a pretty good aim time, and you have good accuracy on the move. Your camo rating is also pretty dope with your tier 10 vehicle from what I've experienced. 44% with everything maxed out is pretty darn good. We can have a look when I'm playing my ELC even, and you can see it has 45, and ELC even is a much smaller tank than the EBR 105. Like, the camo rating is actually pretty strong on this vehicle. One thing you will notice is those vehicles cannot mount binocular telescope. This is something you need to keep in mind, because I was thinking, well, I'm going to play this tank with binocular telescope, so that just as soon as I want to use it somewhere somehow, I will just go easy going, easy life and have no big deal. But no, you do not have binocular telescopes, which is a little bit of a downside, I think, because that could actually help you play this tank better. Another thing is, when you are changing from cruise to rapid mode or from rapid mode to cruise mode, and you have autopilot on, like pressing double R, it will completely whiff that and you have to go on manually. It's really annoying when you're not used to it. Another thing I'm really think is a good idea for you guys is to get something on your stop and fire button, your Q button, because it is actually pretty hefty how long this tank takes to fully stop. And the problem is if you are decelerating with S when you're, for example, accelerating or like moving forward, you tend to immediately go into backwards and start to accelerate already to around 25 kilometers per hour. So putting something on this button, as already said, on the stop and fire button, like Q in my case, makes this tank a lot more, how should I say, manageable. Yeah. Because then you then you can really stop at one point. Yes, you still have a quite long stopping distance. It's quite a long time till you're starting to fully be on zero, but you don't really work further or drive further. So now I guess it's a good time to have a look at the gameplay. So the game is on Malinovka, whoop-de-fucking-do. Who would have guessed, showing the light tank on light map. And there you go, you can see the first thing I've did is a boost start. This is when you're putting down W and spacebar at the beginning of the game. During the wind up for doing your boost, I pressed X to immediately go into rapid mode, making this a impressive quick, well, you've seen it, speed. And this is what I mean, as soon as you turn only slightly and are on a little hill or decline, you start to slide and lose around 30 kilometers per hour, which is a lot and can go down up to 50 when you're driving at 105. So what I'm doing right here is putting myself into a decent spot to try to spot the people which are driving onto the hill. At the moment I have a HE loaded because it's a pretty busted round. It has 105 millimeters of penetration and deals 500 damage. That's a lot of damage and definitely nothing to be trifled with. We can see what devastating effect this tank round can have against another tank later in the game, but right now we just reloaded APCR and get a neat little shot into the back of the AMX 50B. And you can see this is one of the strengths of this vehicle, this little assassin playstyle where you just peek out in a bush, make one shot and go back. Your accuracy is pretty good enough to actually do something like this, and it works pretty well. Sadly enough, we do not get shots correctly onto the 113 or the 60 TP or the 430U, so right now we are just doing what a passive scout would do in my most favorite position on Malinovka. Seriously, this position is amazing and you can totally use it in your random games. So what are we doing right now? We are still just waiting and see what we can do. At the moment it's just a little bit basic camping, basic seeing what the enemies are doing before we are going in. This will be interesting when you are going to see what I'm going to do. You can see a lot of enemies are in our base or close to our base, so I'll decide to do a little, I pulled the sneaky on the enemies soon. Another thing which I have to say, it really needs time to get used to this vehicle, and I hope that they're going to fix a little bit the stability issue with the, what's it called, with the cruise mode. You can see I'm now reloading HE, using boost, immediately propelling myself to almost 105 kilometers per hour. And no, you cannot really go faster than 105. Immediately stop, and look what we have there. A sky pick, which is a gunner right now. I spotted the enemies, you can see it. I got a little bit of spot damage. I immediately go back and we still have HE loaded for the AMX M4. Side shot 513. 500 alpha. Yes, we have only 10.2 seconds reload time, which is a long time, giving us a bad DPM when we just shoot APCR. But with HE and you've got sights like this, you can do wonders, and it feels so good to hit the enemies for such high damage numbers. Yes, this was a little bit of farming of an enemy, yes, I know, but I was able to show you the 105mm penetration HE shot. There we got sadly a shot into our side, immediately getting the engine damaged. Another thing is, you might notice with this vehicle is when you're getting shot at and you lose a wheel, you are going to get slowed down drastically. Something which you really should look after, because doesn't feel good when you're suddenly only 60 to 70 kph instead of the 105. Right now was not spotted, so I wanted to do another shot into the side of the Prosciutto, but he was already taken care of. We have 7 degrees of gun depression, which are more than comfortable to work with on this fast pacing light. I tried to get a shot onto the EBR. Sadly, he juked me a little bit, so I immediately duck into cover and giving the enemies almost no time. You cannot use boost mode in reverse, just so you know. You can see I even turned around to be even quicker in the escaping, but it won't be that necessary after all. We are at the moment at comfortable 2.6k damage and 2k spot damage, which is, hey, that's pretty nifty. And you can see right now we are driving backwards, and I'm deciding to turn around with the handbrakes, putting on this boost mode to accelerate once more, and let's go in. There are only 4 enemies left, and you can see how we are wiggling around or jiggling. It's pretty hard to sometimes keep this tank on the move, or exactly not that to do that. It's not that easy, I think, to drive this vehicle. 1.4k spotting damage, they couldn't do anything, and this is where this tank shines. When the game is already has taken its course a little bit, then you can go in, active scout, and be this pesky little bugger to fish out the last enemies. The enemy EBR made a little mistake, drove into the, what's it called, into the stone, and we were easy on the throttle to get not the kill, because we kind of missed. One thing you can do is you can even turn or press X and turn on the move, and press X immediately afterwards you finish the turn and don't lose a lot of your kilometers per hour you have at the moment, because when you go into cruise mode you lose 30 kilometers per hour, which is a lot. But here we're jumping over into the water. We luckily did not get any ram damage, and can we get the kill? RT stunned us, and sadly not. The T100 LT got the kill in our tank. But hey, 2 kills, 3.8k damage, 5.7 spot. That is something we can work with, and this was also one of the better games I've had. Now I just need to find it. There we go. We even got the Patriot YouTube Medal first class. We did second most damage. Of course we were able to farm the AMX M4, don't get me wrong. But still, 5.7k spot damage is definitely something you can work with. Overall, the tank is fun to play, but I don't see it really to be anything competitive, like in nowhere at the moment. I also really think it's impressively hard to actually, how should I say, control this vehicle, especially when you're using the cruise mode. The cruise mode actually feels so wonky and hard to control. I really hope they're going to change that a little bit up, plus the change that you're not losing your autopilot or your double R when you are switching modes, because that's actually really annoying, because I use double R a lot. Coming from other lights to this light and suddenly it doesn't work anymore, yeah, not that neat. I think this tank actually plays pretty well around ridges, as you've seen in the middle, where it can just peek up, try to spot the enemies, do a shot, and immediately vanish again. This is where this tank, I think, shines the most instead of the usual, you've guessed it, usual active scouting, because you simply lack a little bit of view range for that. Nevertheless, for the tier 10 it actually works. For lower tiers it is a lot harder. I definitely recommend you to play the test server and play the tier 8 tank as well, because the tier 8 tank actually feels really well. It really feels like a good tank to drive, and definitely something to look forward to, for me at least. Even though it has a long reload time of 7.2 seconds for only 240 damage. But that's it's not the point. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the tank, and yeah, I'll talk to you all later.